You ever stand at the counter and watch all the noise circle the same few pistols? Chrome slides, crazy triggers, big reputations. Everybody chases what shines. Meanwhile, the ones built for something real just gather dust. I've been there too. Spent too much time hunting the one everyone wanted, trying to keep up with the favorites, thinking trust was something you could buy with a name or a price tag. But after enough busted mags, botched range days, and regrets, I started noticing who kept showing up at the end of a rough session. It was never the gun that turned heads. It was the one nobody ever asked to see. The one that just kept running while the others went back in the bag. You might hate some of these picks, but stick around, especially for the last one. That's where I stopped caring what anyone else thought, and it's why I'm still here. You ever stand at the counter on a slow Saturday and just watch what people pick up? I was in this old shop on the edge of my town, neon flickering glass smudged from 100 hands. The shelf was packed, tricked out slides, wild colors, all the big names. Folks kept lining up, grabbing the guns that made a statement, Glocks with custom cuts, some flashy new Walther, even a gold trigger that got more laughs than respect. But every time someone's hand hovered over the P226, they moved on. Too old school, one guy joked. Another shrugged. Feels heavy, looks plain. I counted 6 people in a row passing it by, reaching for whatever looked new or promised more likes online. For a second, I started questioning myself. Was I missing something? Maybe I'd been stuck in the past, holding on out of habit. But when the crowd thinned out and the noise settled, it was the P226 that finally left the case. Some quiet older guy like me never said a word, just nodded, checked the sights, and handed over his cash. By closing time, all the hype was still locked up tight. Only the boring one went home with a real shooter. Sometimes the gun that never tries to impress ends up being the one that matters when nobody's watching. There's a rumor about the CZ75 SP01 that it only starts to matter after you've shot it long enough to stop thinking about recoil. First time I brought one to the range, a couple of regulars looked it over and shrugged. Feels a little too serious, one said, like it was made for something heavier than Saturday plinking. That's usually the line from folks who don't hang around for long sessions. But after a couple of 100 rounds, it stopped being about the looks or the old school steel weight. The recoil faded into the background, the controls melted into my hand, and there was nothing left to distract from just shooting. The SP01 doesn't beg for attention. It just keeps running, quietly doing its job. A guy at the range took his turn with it, ran a box, and handed it back. He paused, gave me a long look, and just said, "Yeah, it's fine." That wasn't disappointment. That was the only kind of respect that matters. Earned, never flashy. The CZ isn't built to impress. It's built to work quietly, long after everyone else is packed up. Real trust feels like nothing at all, until you realize you never doubted it once. And if you think that's understated, wait until you meet the next one, a pistol that's even less interested in your attention, but twice as stubborn about earning it. It was one of those brutal Texas range days. Dust swirling, sweat rolling, nobody in the mood for small talk. Every bench was stacked with somebody's favorite. Shiny compacts, fancy triggers, plenty of latest and greatest. First hour, the failures started piling up. Triggers going mushy, slides jamming, tempers getting short. It was like every gun there wanted to make a scene. I hadn't planned to even pull the VP9 out of my bag. Honestly, it felt too safe, almost dull. But after the third guy started cursing at a stovepipe, I fished it out and tossed it on the table. No fanfare. Folks passed it around expecting nothing. Magazine after magazine, the thing just kept running. Never stumbled, never got hot, never gave anybody a story to brag or complain about. I got myself thinking, maybe everyone else was right to ignore it. Maybe this was just the gun you end up with when you stop caring what's in your hands. And that thought didn't sit right. At one point, a buddy grumbled, "Where's the fireworks with this thing?" I just shrugged. Boring, maybe. But the VP9 was the only reason anybody finished out the session. It's been the same story all year, high and low, never asking for attention, but always there when everything else falls apart. It's never been about putting on a show. It just refuses to stop working, no matter what's thrown at it. Stopped in at a local shop a while back, needed some ammo, but couldn't help staring at the case. The dealer caught me eyeing a lineup of Springfield XD-M Elites and leaned over the counter. "First-timers? They walk right past these. Folks who know what they want, they come back for them." He had a point. I watched a few new buyers size it up, give the grip a test, then set it down and move on to the sleeker, trendier options. To most, the Springfield looked oversized, maybe even old-fashioned. Nothing about it screamed, "Take me home." But then a regular strolled in. No small talk, no back and forth. He glanced over the shelf, picked up the XD-M Elite like he'd done it a dozen times before, and just nodded. Later, the dealer started the paperwork without another word. There's nothing about the XD-M Elite that begs for quick approval. It sits quietly until someone who actually needs it recognizes what's there. Not a gun for first impressions, one for the long haul, and for those who've already learned a few lessons the hard way. And speaking of learning the hard way, the next one's got a reputation that's tough to shake, even among folks who think they've seen it all. I didn't choose this one, it just kept showing up. The grip never felt amazing. Just another slab of textured metal, not too thin, not too thick. The trigger, decent, but nothing that ever made me want to brag about it. Early on, I thought of it as a backup, something to take out when my favorites needed a break, or when I just didn't care what I was carrying that day. But over time, something changed. Months turned into years, and I kept pulling it out for range trips. Not because I loved it, but because it was always there and always ready. It didn't demand attention. I'd rack the slide, shoot a box, clean it, put it away. Routine. The quirks faded. It disappeared into the background. Somewhere past 1,200 rounds, I realized I'd stopped thinking about the gun completely. No fuss, no drama, no surprises. It just kept working, quietly and stubbornly, until trust had settled in without me even noticing. It's never asked to impress, just to be used and trusted for the long haul. Funny thing, after all that quiet reliability, the next pistol in this lineup forced me to wrestle with every bit of doubt I had left. It didn't care if I liked it. Earning trust with that one, that was a whole different fight. As at an old outdoor range just outside San Antonio, I watched a new buyer circle the benches, eyeing every pistol, but never quite stopping at the USP. He glanced my way, then finally asked, "Isn't that thing outdated? I heard they stopped updating those years ago." I'd heard it before, usually from guys more interested in specs than sweat. He spent the next hour bouncing between slick subcompacts, the kind you see in every magazine ad. The experts around him were quick to give advice, showing off their latest upgrades, bragging about how many pistols they'd traded in over the last year. I could see the same nervous look pass between them every time that USP's name came up, like it was some relic from a different era. Later, I let the new guy run a few mags through mine. At first, he was awkward. Grip felt strange, controls stiffer than he was used to, but the gun never flinched. Every round cycled, every mag dropped free. By the end, his doubts were quieter. A month later, I saw him again, already talking about selling his latest find. Meanwhile, I was still running the same old USP. No plans to change. Truth is, when someone asks if it's outdated, that just tells me they haven't shot enough yet. Last year, I met an old U.S. Army sergeant at a range just outside town. Late 50s, knees shot but hands steady as stone. Didn't talk much, while everyone else compared optics and triggers. He laid out a worn Beretta 92 FS, finish rubbed smooth on the slide from years of use. Somebody asked him why he still bothered with that thing. He didn't answer right away. Just loaded a mag, took his time, fired off a slow string, cleared it, and set it down. Finally, he looked over and said, "This isn't the gun you show off. It's the gun you stop thinking about." Said he'd carried flashier pistols, lighter ones that felt smarter in the store. But when things went sideways, the Beretta was the one his hands remembered. No surprises. Same trigger, same recoil, same feel, every single time. Then he dropped a line I've never forgotten. "Impressive guns make you pay attention to them. This one lets you pay attention to everything else." That was it. He packed up and left. No speech, no flex, just truth. Sometimes that's all a gun is supposed to do. It's strange what gets left behind. At my local club, there's a shelf where shooters stash whatever they're tired of or just don't want to lug home. Week after week, the same guns rotate through. Glocks disappear fast. Walters and CZs come and go. The Masada sits. Nobody picks it. Nobody even mentions it. It's not ugly, not broken, just ignored. I've seen the shelf empty and refill all year. Sometimes, after everything else gets checked out or runs dry, the Masada is the only thing left. It's never first choice, never anyone's new favorite. I picked it up once, more out of boredom than anything. No fanfare, no fresh oil, no anticipation. Just a gun in your hand, ready and waiting. Because there's nothing else. It's cycled every time. No weird trigger slap, no holster fitment fights, no magazine drama. I never heard a compliment, never heard a complaint. It just worked. Quiet, gray, forgotten. The gun nobody wants to brag about, but nobody returns with a story to tell either. Useful, invisible, never a headline, never a regret. If you think that's uneventful, the next pick has its own way of flying under the radar, right until you need it most. Stop by a shop in Austin, not far from the Texas Capitol, after nearly skipping it because of some rough online reviews. Inside, the staff was welcoming, quick to point out the latest and greatest. I heard stories about new tech, got advice on all the hot models. But every time my eyes landed on the Glock 19 Gen 5, the conversation just faded out. Dealer bias maybe, or just sales floor fatigue. Nobody tried to push it. Nobody talked it down. So I picked it up anyway. No new gun smell, just that familiar weight. Every control right where my hand expected. The shop buzzed around me, but for a minute, it was just me and the 19. I didn't get a pitch or a warning. Didn't need one. The Glock 19 Gen 5 isn't loud, isn't flashy. It's just there, ready, expected to work, and forgotten the second you holster it. People try to move on every year, but that's the pistol you see sticking around after trends have cooled. Truth is, the Gen 5 isn't even the end. There's a whole V series that came and went. Some models already discontinued before most folks ever caught on. Names change, but the idea never does. These guns aren't chasing attention or headlines. They just put in the work. Now, only one left. A pistol that built its own legend by staying out of the spotlight. Every year at SHOT Show, the energy is all about what's new. Polymer frames, custom triggers, flashy optics. Somewhere in the middle of it all, the Colt 1911 government model still sits on display. Even last year, walking the floor at SHOT Show 2025, I noticed almost nobody stopping by that corner. It was there, but people walked right past. Too busy chasing the next big thing. Maybe it's made an appearance again this year in 2026, just as overlooked. You don't hear anyone talking about the old 1911 anymore. No trending photos, no must-have lists, hardly a mention at the range. It's not that people have anything bad to say, it's that the gun doesn't invite a reaction at all. I was guilty of forgetting it too. Years went by chasing upgrades and new releases. But one afternoon, digging through my safe, I found my own government model. Heavy, plain, all business. I took it to the range and ran a box of ammo through it. The feel was as honest as it gets. Subtle weight, slow recoil, no surprises. That's when it hit me. The 1911 was never about impressing anyone. It's the gun that just works. Decade after decade, without demanding attention or applause. While everything else fights for the spotlight, this one keeps showing up, ready, reliable, and quietly unforgettable. If you're still here, maybe you figured it out too. Most guns are built to sell, not to serve. The ones that never grabbed your eye are usually the same ones that carried you through when nothing else worked. I've watched plenty of shooters chase the next flex, only to end up reaching for whatever was left once the show was over. So what about you? Ever trusted a gun just because it looked the part and paid for it later? Or did your confidence settle into something nobody brags about? Tell me about the one pistol you'd never show off, but would never let go of either. That's where the real lessons live. No safe bets, no heroes, just scars and a few survivors. I'm Steve. Don't blink. you'll miss what matters.